Welcome back to another episode of Life in the Stands podcast. We have Jake and Zach on the podcast today. We're excited to jump into the first week of NFL action, starting with the Chiefs and the Ravens. We'll talk a little bit as well about whether or not we think the Chiefs can three-peat. Before we jump into that, though, I want to thank everyone for watching and listening. Remember to like and subscribe on whatever platform you're on, and let's jump into this, Bender. So I'll let you take the first crack at this. It's going to be the first game of the NFL season. Chiefs Ravens, two heavyweights in the AFC, going to be a really good one.
Yeah, I have the same concerns as I did last year with the Chiefs, which sounds crazy because I know they won the Super Bowl, right? But new receiving core, Rashee Rice might get suspended. Hollywood Brown already has some kind of dislocation. I forget what it is, but he won't be back till at the least week 3, in my opinion. Um, so all you really
Professional
have,
opinion, professional medical opinion.
yeah. So the only guy they really have that's going to be steady is rookie Xavier Worthy. If you didn't pick him up in your fantasy league, please do so. So it's him and Kelsey. I like what the Ravens did, to be honest with you. I think the addition of Derrick Henry is kind of scary for the way they run their team. Their team's pretty much the same, besides the fact that Derrick Henry is the upgrade at that position. No more Gus Edwards. No more worrying about J.K. Dobbins tearing his Achilles. Um,
Which I called
so
last year,
yes. So,
unfortunately.
well, I mean, yeah, we don't wish it upon anybody, but he's just basically in a wheelchair at this point. But no, I like how the Ravens look this year. And I think it's about time that Lamar has his moment where it's kind of like you're a two-time MVP. You need to actually do something in the playoffs. I think this is the year for him to do it. I think the only other team standing in their way is the Bengals. But however, um, that's something to look forward to later in the season. For this
Huh.
game Thursday night, I actually have the Ravens beating the Chiefs in Kansas City, just because the Ravens have that chemistry already.
Lots of interesting points there. I don't have the next couple of weeks to break that all down, so I'm going to try to do it in like 30 seconds. Xavier Worthy being a rookie and then saying that he'll be steady. I think he's going to be bad. He's super fast, but I've seen too many clips of him getting pressed and shoved, and even from like trying to run a crossing route. Like it takes one linebacker, a hand on, a shove, all that disrupts timing, all that kind of stuff. So I don't know, like bad is probably too far, but I don't think he's going to be as good as people think just because he's fast. I think he's going to turn into like a John Ross type or even a Quez Watkins type. Like there's a lot of guys in the league that are really, really fast, you know? So we'll see how that pans out. But in terms of this game, I do also believe the Ravens are going to win it. I have some concerns about obviously the Chiefs receiving core, like you mentioned, even though we have those concerns every year. I also think the Ravens, like you said, filled in their biggest weakness with running back. And then also corner. Like they brought in a really good young corner in Nate Wiggins, who I think fits that system well. And Marlon Humphrey's the perfect person to learn behind for that. So, all of that being said, I do like what the Ravens have going on more. So, if we're talking about the Thursday night game, I think the Ravens win. If we're talking about if the Chiefs can three-peat or not, I also think that's not probably a thing that they'll do. But I think that they'll still make a deeper run in the playoffs than the Ravens will.
Definitely a deep run, but I feel like where my opinion is coming from at least is the fact that Joe Burrow is expected to be healthy this year. That is the only quarterback to knock off Mahomes in the playoffs outside of Tom Brady. And then Lamar Jackson has better surrounding pieces, like you just mentioned. So that's where I'm kind of thinking the Chiefs. It's hard enough to go back to back, right? Three peat's kind of absurd. I mean,
Right.
then we start talking about what I was talking about like last season. If the Chiefs win again this year, I feel like you need to start talking about Mahomes as the GOAT already, and he's not even 30 years old.
Have you seen the comparisons, him and Tom Brady in their first 7 seasons?
No, I have not.
It's like same amount of Super Bowls, but Brady had no MVPs, no other accolades. He had like 140 touchdowns and like 80 picks. Mahomes has like over 200 touchdowns and less than like 60 picks. Like you look out on the chart, it's like, whoa, yeah, like I don't think Mahomes is going to play for 18 years, 24 years, whatever it was, like 3 decades, but he plays for 15, 8, like 16 years. Like, I don't know. Mahomes could get close. It could be interesting.
One last comment before we move into our week 1 predictions. Mahomes has never been a game manager. He's the playmaker.
Right.
Tom Brady at points in his career was carried by a defense at least a little bit and was a game manager. So I think that's something to look at as well if you're talking about the GOAT conversation.
Brady won Super Bowls because of his surroundings and he didn't make mistakes multiple times. Mahomes has been one of the like top two or three reasons why his team has won the Super Bowl each time they've won it.
Yes.
So, all right, let's jump into week one though. The game in Brazil. This is going to be a Friday night game. This is kind of interesting because of the a lot of the players have also come out and there's a lot of stuff going on with Brazil, right? It's an interesting situation. Let's sidestep all that. Who do you think wins the game between the Eagles and the Packers?
Um, Great question. I think it's going to be the Eagles. They have so much talent. I feel like you have to figure it out. Kellen Moore is the new offensive coordinator there, but I feel like the way he calls plays is going to be good for all the pieces that they have.
Mm-hmm.
Whether it's trick plays, utility plays, you have guys for that. AJ Brown's a playmaker in itself, and just adding Saquon Barkley, I think, puts them leaps beyond the Packers at this moment. I'd like to see how consistent the Packers can be this season, like they were the last 8 games of last season,
Mm-hmm.
for me to start making decisions on if they can win a game or not.
Yeah, I respect that opinion. I'm going to take the Packers in this game. And really, it's because of the running back upgrades that you talked about. Because to me, these are largely similar teams. Few coordinator changes, few positions in the draft, whatever, but largely similar teams. Not a lot of turnover. The Eagles may have added Saquon Barkley, but look who the Packers added.
Josh Jacobs,
Josh
baby.
Jacobs, right? So it's like, all right, well, is there really that much of a difference in like the talent that could come from these offenses potentially by the end of the season? So I'm going to take the Packers in this one, but it will be an interesting game on Friday night. Let's jump into one of the worst divisions in football this year, presumably. This is going to be the Panthers and the Saints in week one.
A game we don't really care much about unless you have guys in fantasy football. I am picking the New Orleans Saints in this one.
Yeah, I'm taking the Saints too. We've talked about it before on TikTok and other channels on this podcast before. I think we all think that division is going to be the worst in football. Bucks will make a playoff run, and they'll be the only team in the playoffs from that division. Next game up we have here is Vikings Giants.
I think it's an interesting one just because the Vikings do have a backup, but with Jordan Addison not being suspended yet for his little incident and Justin Jefferson finally being healthy, I think Aaron Jones is a big factor on that team because that's something they didn't have last year. They had Alexander Madison as the starter.
Yeah,
Um, After Dalvin Cook kind of went off and did his thing elsewhere, and got hurt. Go Cowboys, by the way. But um, but no, I think the Vikings still win this one regardless. Giants, Danny Dimes looks so bad. I feel like I can't even call him that anymore.
I'm going to call him Danny Dimes, and I think the Giants do win this game in week one. I think they beat the Vikings because I do feel like there's more continuity with the Giants, even though the talent is lesser and you lost Saquon. I think Neighbors is going to go off because I think the Vikings are hurting at corner. It is, like obviously they had some tragedy strike with Kyrie Jackson and like some of that stuff that's happened. But in general, they also traded away a corner that they just picked in the top round. Their DBs are hurting. They got rid of Lewis Cine as well. So I think that Malik Neighbors really takes advantage of that. And I think with a new QB in week one, even with that high end talent that Minnesota trots out on the offensive end, I think it takes a little bit for that to gel and for them to really be proficient there. So let's jump into the next game: Patriots Bengals.
Not even a game in my opinion. I have the Bengals. This is a perfect week for Jamar Chase to miss. Hopefully they can get him back by week 2 against the Chiefs, which is going to be a crazy one if they're fully stacked. Um, Patriots just don't have enough. I'd like to see how their quarterback position plays out this year, but for this week specifically, they don't have it.
Yeah. Before we jump in the next game, I totally agree. Bengals. What week do you think Drake May is starting by, if he is
Uh,
this season at
week
all?
week 1 of next year.
Yeah. All right. So next season. Next season. All right. Let's jump down to the next game: Steelers Falcons.
This is actually a crazy game just because of Arthur Smith, but I got to go Falcons, man. The Falcons made so many good moves this offseason. I think the Steelers defense will keep it a close game, but I again got to see how the quarterback position plays out for them. I believe in Kirk Cousins more than I do those other guys at the moment.
Yeah.
Um, I like to see the play calling changes from Arthur Smith compared to Canada from last year, which is probably something you're looking forward to in this season as a whole.
Right.
But I think the Falcons take this one over.
Yeah, you mean the Steelers being like a watchable football team, right?
Yes.
That's what you mean in terms of Arthur Smith taking over from Matt Canada. But
Jet sweeps only.
uh, and you know what's crazy? Roman Wilson. You know what play he got injured on in training camp?
A jet sweep.
A jet sweep. The Steelers and jet sweeps just don't. There's no jive there. Okay, it only worked for Chase Claypool, and look at where he's at. Anyway, that dude had like 9 touchdowns as a rookie, and now like
He's
the
a he's
Bears think we
he's
got
out
Joey
for the
Porter
year.
Jr. out of that.
You
So
did. That
Ryan
was a
Poles.
great trade for you, and now he's on the Dolphins roster out
Oh,
for the year.
yeah, thank you, Ryan Poles. But barring all those sidebars and everything, I do have the Steelers in this game just because I think being closer to the Steelers stuff than anywhere else, just because I follow training camp a little bit closer and pay attention, that kind of stuff. I think the players like playing for Arthur Smith. I think it's really refreshing to them to feel like they have like a real offensive coordinator. Um, so I think those Steelers guys are going to go into Atlanta, and I think there's going to be a little bit of a chip on the shoulder. I think there's going to be some angst going back into Atlanta from those Steelers players. And then I also, as many moves as Atlanta has made, I'm going to stick with my theme of it takes a little bit of time for that to gel. You can't trot out Justin Simmons and Jesse Bates and Judon and all those guys. They're going to make individual plays, no doubt, but there will probably be lapses in coverage, small miscommunications, little things with all those new pieces trying to fit together, right? So staying with the theme of it takes some time for all of that to gel, even if there's a lot of talent there. So I'm going to take the Steelers in that game. Before
Homer pick.
Bender has a chance to reply, Texans and Colts. All right.
Homer pick. Homer pick.
Have to. It's week
I'm
one
gonna
for
go.
Bender.
I'm gonna go a little bit different with this one. I think playing in Indianapolis is probably one of the hardest things to do. Is come out of there with a win. And Anthony Richardson looked just as good in preseason as everybody thinks CJ Stroud did last year. And I know it's just preseason, right? But to me, AR kind of showed some flashes last year. I know you're not a fan of him at the moment. Um, but I have the Colts winning this one. I feel like he's going to come out firing. JT's healthy to start the year, so that helps them a lot because they didn't have him for the whole first half of last year. Um, so I just think the Colts come out in this one, and the Texans might get shell shocked right away.
I have the Colts in this one as well, sticking with my theme of it takes some time for a lot of talent to gel. Texans brought in a lot of really good pieces this offseason. I think they're a Super Bowl contender. Takes time. Takes time. So let's move on to the next game again here, Cardinals and Bills.
Bills easy, but I want to see the development of Kyler Murray and see if he can actually get out of whatever funk he's been in, whether it's injuries or just playing bad.
And Marvin Harrison Jr. would definitely help, right? But I have the Bills as well. I am really excited to see that number one overall pick for the Cardinals, their first round overall pick. Really excited to see him perform. Titans and Bears. This should be an interesting one.
I think it's going to be a close game just because both teams are so young and in a rebuild. But I think Caleb Williams is so much better than Will Levis. Will Levis might get lucky and throw a bunch of bombs to Hopkins like he did at the end of last year. However, and Calvin Ridley's there, so that helps, right? Tyler Boyd's
Mhm.
there, that helps. But losing Derrick Henry is a thing. Tony Pollard and Tajay Spears are not those guys, and Caleb Williams has a crazy roster around him.
Just about to say, you mentioned the Titans receiver. It's like, yeah, that helps. How about Roma Dunze, Keenan Allen, and
Yes.
DJ Moore? Yeah, like all right.
Yeah, so
And
it's
Cole
the same.
Kmet. Yeah, yeah. So I like the Bears in that game. I agree. Two teams that are just kind of an interesting spot, just like a lot of newness coming into
Yes.
the season from both those teams. But it's exciting for both teams then too. On to the next game, Bender. We're kind of getting into the back half of them here. We got Jaguars and Dolphins.
I think this game's going to be more of a shootout than you think. But I do have the Dolphins winning this one.
It better be paying all that damn money to Trevor Lawrence. Shit,
And to Tua.
put some points up, fellas. Some points.
Battle of the contracts.
Oh my goodness. The GMs are going to be up in the skyboxes staring at each other from across the top of the field. Just who made the bet?
If
I
that
have the
game
Dolphins in this one too. I have the
if
Dolphins.
that game's 10-3, those GMs are gonna pull what the Panthers guy did and start throwing drinks at fans.
Brutal.
But
Absolutely brutal. All right, Broncos and Seahawks.
another close game in my opinion. I actually have the Broncos in this one. I like what Bo Nix has shown in the preseason. They still have some pieces around. Seahawks are kind of a inconsistent hit or miss team. They usually don't catch their stride until the end of the season, like the back half of the season.
Yeah.
Similar to kind of how the Bengals are really. So I think the Broncos take this one.
I had the Seahawks winning. I have the Seahawks winning. Although you make good points there, and it makes me like want to consider switching my sides and taking the Broncos. I also have an ulterior motive because if the Seahawks lose a lot of games to start the season, I think DK Metcalf goes up on the trade block,
Ooh, that'd be crazy.
which would be crazy. DK and George Pickens would be
Oh,
stupid.
calm down, dude.
Let's move on
Not
again
every
before Bender can say anything. Raiders and Chargers.
um Chargers, I know they lost a lot of guys this past season. They're in a rebuild, but Justin Herbert is much better than Minshew. Minshew might turn it into a shootout because he still has Devontae Adams, but we'll see.
Yeah, it feels like Minshew is a more capable quarterback than what they had. So I like the Raiders QB situation more than Jimmy Garoppolo, but not. I still don't like it. Chargers in this game for sure. I do like what Harbaugh's doing in LA. Cowboys and Browns.
I have the Cowboys in this one. Gotta see what the Browns look like if that was just a flash in the pan last year, see if they just kind of got lucky. I don't trust Deshaun Watson. I trust Dak more than I do Deshaun Watson. CeeDee Lamb got re-signed. It's just the easy choice.
Yeah, I was just gonna say with the contract kind of momentum that you get from signing your best player to a long-term deal, Cowboys come out strong in week one for sure. And you do not come out strong if you're the Browns after you just signed up to pay Deshaun Watson 70 plus million per season in a couple years. It's
Yeah.
brutal. Let's go. Last three games here: Commanders and Buccaneers.
Another close one. I actually have the Commanders beating the Buccaneers, which will be one of the bigger wins for them in the season because the Buccaneers were a playoff team last year.
Right.
Did lose some defensive pieces, especially in the middle of that defense. But Jaden Daniels looks very well or very good. He played well in the preseason. I have so much trust in like what all the rookies have done this preseason. There's nobody I don't like right now.
Yeah, it's funny. Before the draft, I feel like it was the opposite. All the rookie QBs where it's like, well, like is it really going to be consistent enough to like be like the upside is there, like talent is there, but like is it
Yeah,
consistent enough to be NFL QBs? All of them have looked pretty good. I do have the Buccaneers in this one. I think there's just so much consistency in what they have from last year. Um, again, sticking with that theme, even bringing in the talent that the Commanders brought in and Eckler and that kind of stuff. You also like traded away Jahan Dotson and you have Terry McLaurin. Like, who else is in your receiver room now?
it's true. It's just a weird one, but yeah,
Yeah,
I
it's a
got you.
weird one. Yeah. So Rams and Lions.
It's probably going to be the biggest game of the whole weekend. Um, Stafford goes back to Detroit. I think this will be another shootout game. Um, Putting me on the spot, I didn't really think about this one because I couldn't think about this one. That's how close this game's going to be. I'm going to take the Lions though. The Lions, I feel like, are not a fluke like people think they are from last year. I actually have the Lions making the Super Bowl, so let's mark that down now. Um,
Ding 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 ding.
so I just think they're going to come out on top. It's going to be a close game though.
I have the Lions in this one as well. Again, with the continuity. Not that the Rams don't have it, but you lost Aaron Donald, which was like 2/3 of your defense. So I
Yeah.
count that as losing a lot of continuity. You said that was like the biggest game. You said that was like the biggest game of the weekend. This game, I think, might be the biggest game of the weekend. It's the last game of the weekend, Jets and 49ers.
Definitely has the potential to be. We're still waiting to see if Aaron Rodgers is still that guy, which I don't have any doubts. It's just kind of um, on a new team. We didn't really get a chance to see him. He was what, like 4 plays in and tore his Achilles or something. So um, a lot of pieces around him. We just got to see what happens. I got the Niners though. If we want to stick with the continuity piece of this, Ayuk just got re-signed again. Um, Trent Williams got
Yeah,
re-signed as
yeah,
well. That's the
yeah,
biggest part. If they didn't have Trent Williams, I honestly would have picked the Jets because the
yeah.
Jets defense would have torn them into shreds.
Well, I
But
mean, I don't know. The
um,
Jets also don't have Hassan Reddick. Is
I'm
that too
yeah,
soon? Sorry, too soon. Too soon. But no, I also have the 49ers in this, just because of the things you just mentioned there. They got the re-signings done. they kind of wrapped all that stuff up. All their big business to do items are done. It feels like also the team, after losing that second Super Bowl, almost needed time apart from each other. Like I almost feel like it was good for the Niners that they didn't spend like the whole training camp together. Like they're just gonna go play football again. Like they're not like
Yeah.
they don't need the couple of weeks in training camp hitting each other. Like they know each other.
Yeah.
Like they get it. So should be a fun weekend of NFL football. Week one is always crazy. There's always unexpected things, good fantasy storylines, bunch of fun stuff. Drop a comment below what you think is going to happen. We appreciate everyone watching and listening. And remember to like and subscribe on whatever platform you're on. And we'll see you on the next episode.